that they could have put a ballpark in Oakland, that they could have brought the team up to where it was drawing what it used to draw, 20, 30,000 or more fans a night, and be legit and be among the big spenders. So it's.
Here we go. Scott Ostler joins us right now, San Francisco Chronicle columnist. You can follow him on Twitter at Scott, Ostler. Scott, good to see you again. We'll talk a little bit of Giants and a little bit of A's if that's cool with you. I wanted to start off with San Francisco because I personally think, as long as he stays on the field, Justin Verlander will be a nice draw for the fans out there. I know they want more than that. They want wins, but I do think that they'll look forward to nights like that because you don't know how many Verlander starts you have left. So what did you think of the signing?
I thought it was good. Not fantastic, not great. It kind of shows that the Giants it shows what they are, which is kind of a second-tier team. You got the Yankees and the Dodgers and the big spending teams, the Mets and so forth. And they're going to get all the big guys, and the second-tier guys are going to go to the people like the Giants. It's not bottom feeders, but you're not with the elite. But so signing Verlander was good, and I think that they're really hoping that, pardon me, a lot of what he's going to bring. They hope he wins 10 or 12 games too, but a lot of mentorship and leadership and clubhouse presence.
Scott, I mean, that sounded a little bitter there. That sounded like a bitter old Giants fan saying the Dodgers get all the players the Giants used to be the players. The Giants used to be the team that were getting all the players. So what's changed? I thought Buster Posey coming in was going to change all this kind of narrative. And I mean, what's the deal?
Well, they used to get all the players because they would draft them and develop them. Like Buster is a prime example, and Timmy Lincecum and Madison Bumgarner and all the other guys. So that was a part of their formula, and they hit a good patch for a while, and that worked. And now it's kind of slowed down. And to be like a top tier team now, you got to spend money. It's more of a money game than ever. And the Giants are not in that class of spending the money. Whether they have the money, some people say they're a little bit tight-fisted. They're a little bit too reluctant to spend the money. And some people say they just get outbid by the big giant guys like the Mets and the Dodgers.
So are they becoming?
But I don't think Buster coming there. I think it improved their chances. And losing Farhan Zaidi, as good a guy as he was, and he had a lot going for him and everything. I think everyone's ready for a change, and I think it's really going to benefit the team in the long run. But I don't think it's going to be. It can't be a dramatic thing like, oh, all of a sudden Ohtani now wishes he would have gone to the Giants because Buster is the GM. It doesn't work that way, but it has been a positive, good change.
Are the Giants turning into the Toronto Blue Jays of like the 2000s or 2010s, where if they put an offer out there, if they put a number out there, agents and players are going, well, hey, the Giants offered me this. Can you match it? I'll go there. Have they become that team, or is this narrative that they're actually in on all these guys not a real thing?
Well, I mean, are they being used? In other words, are they being exploited by agents and so forth? Yeah, there's always an element of that, and I think that might have been possible, say in the Aaron Judge and stuff like that when he was out there. It helped to have a team like the Giants put their offer in. And even with Ohtani, supposedly they made him a really big offer, and that probably you can make the case that the Giants offer caused the Dodgers to pay more than they would have, and so squeezing the Dodgers a little bit, I guess, is a benefit. But I think it's just that they are not. It's just so much of a money game now. It's just a bottom line deal. I think San Francisco is an attractive place, but the ballpark works against, say some pitchers. Ohtani would be a case there because he's a pitcher. It's not the premier destination, and mostly because of the money. But it is still an attractive place to come, I think. And I think Buster is part of that thinking.
Well, they still get huge crowds there, and it's still a great ballpark. I don't know. The hitting is the hitting.
It's a good ballpark. It is. I'll give you that.
It's still a great ballpark. It's beautiful. It's a little chilly for someone from Florida. I mean, in August, I'm wearing a turtleneck and a hoodie. But come on.
Put a scarf on.
But other than that, it's beautiful. All right, so Scott, I want to go to the other team that's not in the Bay Area anymore, the A's. So can you still cover them?
They're not in the Bay Area anymore?
They're
not
technically.
I don't know where they're from. It doesn't say anything on their shirts.
Nobody knows where they're from. They're the ATHs, okay? So they're the West Coast Athletics. But Dave Kaval obviously resigned. Here they go spending money. I think we're one of the few shows that actually talks about they're kind of forced to spend the money, right? So your thoughts on the A's actually, now they're spending money because they have to, and is it because they have one arm tied behind their back and John Fisher's like, hey, oh my gosh, don't twist my arm too hard or I have to spend money?
The spending money is a horrible joke to me because for the last 3 years, I think it is in a row, they've had the lowest payroll in baseball, and it's not even close. They're way, way, way down there. I don't have the figures right in front of me. Roughly $40 million last year. Well, this year, in order to receive their share of revenue sharing, which would be, I think, $60 million, in order to get that without a complaint from the players union, they need to get their payroll up to a certain level, which is about 105 million, something like that. And so they got to boost their payroll. And that was one of the reasons they went out and signed a pitcher and gave him a contract larger than they've ever given anybody else. They have to spend up to a certain amount. And I think it's 105 million they have to get to. And I wrote this, I think their final payroll will fall somewhere between 105 million and 105.1 million. In other words, they're going to spend exactly what they have to spend in order to get their revenue sharing, which will give them a huge profit next year with their TV money and all that stuff. They're just going to make tons of money and spend as little as possible. And it'll probably kill John Fisher to spend that much, but he's got to do it in order to make money. So it's all a game. It's all a scam.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. 0.1.
That's what I mean. Is that right? Is that enough? Should it be more? Like, I just feel like there's so much that's not fleshed out about this that you've said it for the last 3 years. They've just pocketed all that money. They've just not spent any of it. And now all of a sudden they're kind of spending it. They're not taking loans out. Like, they have this money. So should it be more? Should it be higher?
I really believe that baseball is terrible for not having a bottom line, a minimum salary cap. You know, it shouldn't, the gulf between the haves and the have-nots, if one team is spending $250 million and one team is spending $40 million, that doesn't make sense. It shouldn't even be in the same sport or the same league or the same, they should be a minor league team or something like that. So that's wrong. Baseball needs to address that at some point. But I agree with you. They should have to spend, let's say, $150 million. They should have to spend enough to be a representative team and not be just a bunch of guys out there, And I feel sorry for the players because you put them in a position where they really can't compete. Although they did a pretty good job last year, despite all that stuff. But yeah, the John Fisher ownership has been a kind of a blight on baseball, basically for a long time.
But you said haves and have-nots. It's not the haves and have-nots. I don't see John Fisher being like, oh man, I got to sell the team because it's just I'm losing. It's the spends and spends nots. Now, could they spend up to the Dodgers level since you as a Giants fan, you look up to the Dodgers, but you sit there and you go, like, it's not the have. They have money. They're choosing not to spend it.
No, there's no question that John Fisher has enough money to spend more. And he would make the case, well, we've been stuck in a terrible ballpark and we've had everything stacked against us, so we couldn't come up with a new ballpark. But there have been people almost literally standing in line to buy that team for years. And I'm talking about legitimate people like Joe Lacob and other people, backed by Reggie Jackson had a group. And there's been 3 or 4 groups that right now would step up and buy the team. So to say that John Fisher is a victim of being stuck in a terrible ballpark in Oakland is not his fault. Well, it is his fault because other people believe that they could have made a go of that they could have put a ballpark in Oakland, that they could have brought the team up to where it was drawing what it used to draw, 20, 30,000 or more fans a night and be legit and be among the big spenders. So to me, it's just a reign of error. It's just been a long time with suffering under John Fisher. And I really think, people in Oakland feel bad. I actually feel good for them that they're from under the burden of having to try to support or coexist with a John Fisher team.
As an athlete, I care about what I put in my body, especially when it comes to protein. But can we also get some protein that tastes good? Come on, it's 2025.
Todd, that's why this podcast is sponsored by ORGAIN. ORGAIN believes real nutrition has the power to make a real difference in people's lives, and it tastes so good. Orgain's new 30-gram complete protein shakes offer protein-packed real nutrition designed to satisfy your cravings without any added sugar. They're also an excellent source of premium ultra-filtered protein with all 9 essential amino acids.
FT loves Orgain, and you'll often see it on the desk in the studio as we fuel up before and during the show. We love it for muscle support, recovery, and more.
Remember, there are no quick fixes when it comes to your health. If you want more protein, give Orgain 30-gram protein shakes a try. Head to Orgain.com/FOUL30 and use code FOUL30 for 30% off your order. That's the best offer you'll find, but you have to use the code FOUL30 for 30% off.
Scott, isn't it interesting, though, how the A's, who are in Oakland, which is a huge market, didn't get any revenue sharing, so they had a low payroll. Now they go to Sacramento, and the reason they have to spend money is because they're in a small market. And so in order to get the revenue sharing money, they actually have to spend money. Isn't that kind of ironic that in order to get money, they have to spend money?
No, and they were getting some.
They weren't getting as much as they get now in Sacramento because of the market
trickle down because they were like, you have to figure out your situation, right, Scott?
Yeah, well, it just shows how cheap they were. What a terrible low spending, low rate organization they were and still are. That they're in that predicament. It's just. It'll be interesting. I thought it was interesting. One thing that, when they announced the move to Sacramento for months and months and months, they said, we're going to put an AstroTurf field. We're going to put a fake turf field in it at the field we're going to play at. And I and other people wrote that this is ludicrous, that its average temperature in West Sacramento in the summer in hot months gets to be like 95, 97 degrees. And you can't play on AstroTurf when it's 110, 115 degrees, which it gets to occasionally there. And finally, about 3 weeks ago, they said, okay, we're not going to do the AstroTurf thing. But the fact that they would even think about that, subjecting major league players or even little league players to playing on AstroTurf at 110 degree temperatures and subjecting fans to that kind of treatment, it just shows to me how tone deaf the whole organization is. And MLB too. Let's not forget Rob Manfred and his part.
All right, so the next step. Do you think, because you're there, boots on the ground, do you think they make it to Vegas? Do you think this organization makes it to Vegas? Do they get stalled in Sacramento and nothing ever happens and Sacramento becomes the new home of the ATHs?
That's the prime question right now. And I'm such a financial genius. That's why I can barely make my rent. But so when I say some of these things, you got to take it with a grain of salt. But I would be surprised if they actually make it to Vegas in 3 or 4 or 5 years or whatever they say. I would, if I were betting and setting the betting odds, I would put it at like 25%. Maybe they'll make it there. And it seems to me even lower because there are so many things against them. The fact that the price keeps going up. They just boosted the price from $1.25 billion to $1.5 billion, I think, because they said, there's increased labor costs since we had our original estimate and everything. But those costs keep going up every day. Those click up every day like a taxi meter. So if they think they're going to freeze those costs for 2 or 3 years while they're building the ballpark, they're wrong. Where they're getting their money, we still don't know. John Fisher said he and his family would kick in a certain amount, but he said they want private investors to buy parts of the team. Well, so far there's been no word that there's anybody clamoring to join that club. So it's just so problematic. The fact that they think they're going to fill a 33,000 seat stadium in Las Vegas every night with maybe a representative team. We don't even know if they're going to be. It's going to be the chicken and the egg again. They're in Las Vegas. They got a new ballpark, and for a couple of weeks, maybe they only draw 25,000 instead of 33,000. Well, John Fisher says we're not drawing enough fans. We have to lower our payroll. We have to get rid of our favorite slugger. It just. I just there's so many moving pieces. I wrote a column a couple months ago about where's the noise in Vegas? We don't hear about investors. We don't hear about progress of the stadium. We haven't seen any construction start. We saw the tear down of the arena. And also I've talked to people in Las Vegas, and there seems to be, from I'm way an outsider, seems to be no buzz. No, oh my God, the A's are coming to town. Woo, the excitement. It's kind of a Dodger town. It's the Dodgers have kind of a foothold in there. They're closer to LA, and doesn't seem to be any huge buzz, which you want from a new team in town, right? You're bringing in a new team. Like when they brought in the hockey team, there was a huge buzz. With the A's, there doesn't seem to be that. So how they're going to make that work, I don't know. To me, it's I predicted the Howard Terminal thing was a joke. I called it Fantasy Island when they first started trying to make their project there. And this is, to me, this is a like fantasy mirage. So I'll be surprised if they want to put a statue of me in front of the new ballpark and let people throw tomatoes at it once they get going and say, we told this guy we'd do it. Well, fine. But count me as a skeptic.
Hey,
the reason is that nobody wants them. Like Las Vegas people, they don't want them.
Well, they want a team.
They want a team, but they want a new team.
Yeah.
They don't want
they
this
want a new team.
And also
they don't want a team owned by John Fisher and formerly fronted by Dave Kaval. He's not the front man anymore. But people are not stupid. They can look at the record of the A's and they can see what went wrong. They can see back when during the COVID, when the minor leaguers were out of business for a while, and the A's were the only team in baseball that didn't want to pay their minor leaguers a stipend of any kind. People know that their A's are the organization that fed their minor leaguers lunches that you wouldn't give to prisoners. That what they've done over the years, and their incompetence and their bumbling in looking for a ballpark. And why do we want to? What is to get excited about here?
So one more on this.
Do I sound too negative, guys? Am I skewing too negative? I'm sorry.
No, I'm pretty excited. I feel better. I'm pretty positive about the experience because this all always leads me to think that enough failure will eventually lead to sale. And I just want the guy out of the sport. That's all I'm rooting for. I just want the sport to thrive. And usually when new ownership groups come in, they're better than the previous ones. So this is a classic case. But here's my other question for you, Scott. My last one. You mentioned Dave Kaval. I know you wrote about him. Well, what the heck happened? It's hard to read that one because he's the front man, the puppeteer, or the puppet, not the puppeteer. But he helps to get the Sacramento deal done. Then he bounces. It seemed like, just like rooted in Oakland, he was rooted in the organization until he wasn't. So what do you think happened? What's your best conspiracy theory behind the scenes on why he's out?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that he had got the Sacramento thing done, and I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did some work on that. But my thinking on that is that kind of did itself because Vivek Ranadive, who owns the NBA team up there and who owns the minor league team and owns the field and everything, he desperately wants baseball. So he didn't need anybody to sell him. Vivek didn't need anyone to sell him on letting them use the ballpark for 3 or 4 years. He basically begged them to come there. So I don't give Kaval any credit for that. I think I'm not clear on what happened. He possibly got out because he just got tired of the whole thing. He doesn't want to. He told people that I talked to, he doesn't want to move to Las Vegas, and so maybe he felt this was a good time to get out. Maybe John Fisher kind of woke up and thought we need a better front man. Dave Kaval he's a glib guy, and I'm sure he does some good business things behind the scenes. But I'm told he's a hard guy to work with and for. He's hard. People who do business with him say unkind things about him in terms of having to do business with him. He's hard to get a hold of. He's kind of slippery. I know he was the front man for the A's for years, and for years at a time, he kind of went dark. He went off the grid for a lot of us, including me. It became a point where I couldn't get a hold of him. I couldn't reach him even by email to get him to return an email. Just not what I would consider an exemplary front man. And maybe John Fisher, who desperately needs a front man because he's a background man. He decided that Kaval is not his guy and he can do better. And I think he probably will and has.
All right, Scott, before we let you go, a couple of days ago, you wrote an interesting story about Ricky Pearsall. I know he's not a baseball player, he's an NFL player. He was shot in San Francisco, and he wants to meet with his accuser. And I read the article, and it's interesting because you don't really hear about guys getting shot. They want to go meet the assailant, the guy, or the assaulter, whatever the word is that he wants. So Can you just talk about this real quick before we have to go to a break, and how this is something that I've never heard of, and you wrote the article?
Yeah, well, I don't claim to know Ricky really well. I've never really talked to him, but the other day they had a locker cleanout session. Oh, excuse me, at the 49ers. And I asked Ricky some questions about that. And I didn't have any motive or anything. I just was curious. And I asked him if he ever thought he would come face to face with the guy who shot him and tried to rob him. And if he would want to and everything. And I wasn't trying to get anything going. And Ricky said, yes, he would. That he believes in the concept of forgiveness, and that he would at some point consider embracing that concept, and that he would like to meet the guy. And he basically said, I don't know what brought him to that point in his life, that 17-year-old kid, why he would rob me, but there's a lot I can't know about him, so I can't judge him, but I would like to meet him. So subsequently, I talked to the public defender who was defending the kid, the 17-year-old who shot Ricky, and he said he would set up a meeting if Ricky was amenable. Well, through Ricky's agent, they declined the offer, and they said, no, this is not right now. They didn't shut the door on that. I don't know, I suspect that maybe Ricky's lawyers, his attorneys, his agents or whatever, convinced him that maybe this is not the right time, that he just finished his first football season. Maybe he needs to take some time away to himself and reflect on this stuff, which he says he still has to get his head right, because it's still there, the attack and all that stuff. So I'm kind of hoping, because I think from what I've learned that it would be good for both of them to get together. I'm kind of hoping that happens at some point. And maybe, as the public defender said, both sides could probably benefit from that kind of thing. So, but I think Ricky's heart is there. I really do. I'm not Dr. Phil or anything, but I really think that Ricky has compassion, and that might happen, but it's not going to happen soon.
Well, thanks for reporting on it, Scott, and obviously encourage everyone to go check it out in the San Francisco Chronicle. We got to jump and hit the break, but thank you for hopping on, Scott. Good to see you.
Thanks, fellas. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.